This first day of May, we are reminded of that sad and dreadful day when the legend passed away. The silence was deafening in our state of dismay. It's been 20 years for which for him the champagne would no longer spray. He was not just a driver, but so much more. The fiercest competitor to his very core, refusing to lift off the throttle, which was constantly pinned to the cockpit floor. With fluid motion, raw aggression, and immeasurable grace, only crossing the line first brought a smile to his face. So focused was he that he'd be completely entranced. With severe tunnel vision, his car tiptoed and danced, methodically preparing his approach to be the most advanced, and winning the hearts of fans who remained mesmerized and romanced. One of the greatest we may ever have seen. Brazil, 91, with only 6th gear. A wet victory for his home fans to cheer. A rainmaster of sorts, remember Monaco? In heavy rains, he put on a show. We remember him in the famed black and gold, where he silently began to show signs of pure brilliance, to behold awaiting his chance to be unleashed and uncontrolled. And greatness we witnessed without shadow of doubt, when in 88 he joined McLaren and ended his championship drought. Together with Prost, they won all but one race in their championship bout. The rivalry with Prost had started. The war had begun. The fiercest of battles ever to be fought in Formula One. Round after round, their ammunition were their nerves, and their right foot the gun. In monsoon conditions, or under the blazing sun, he refused to lose, be outrun, or outdone. His battles with Prost pushed them to new limits, ahead of the pack, by not seconds, but minutes. He was the ultimate master of this motorsport game, competing only to win and not for fame. His spirit shall live on. Ayrton Senna was his name.
"25,000 fans and over 200 accredited journalists from over 20 countries flocked to the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari circuit in Imola, northern Italy, to celebrate the lives of two F1 drivers, Roland Ratzenberger and the great Ayrton Senna. The occasion marked 20 years since the two passed away on one of F1's darkest weekends. The event spanned 5 days in total, with the revenue from ticket sales going to the Ayrton Senna Institute, which supports social projects in Brazil and across the world. The event started with a religious ceremony on Wednesday, whilst fans from all over the world huddled around F1 personalities like Giancarlo Minardi and Emmanuel Pierrot to hear about their experiences and memories of Senna. A number of other drivers, past and present, were also present during a celebration of the late Brazilian's life. Fernando Alonso, Kimi Räikkönen, Gerhard Berger and Riccardo Patrese all paid tribute. Over the course of the weekend, an exhibition was held by Sutton Images photographer Keith Sutton. The stalwart of photography has followed much of Senna and Ratzenberger's careers and photographed the key moments which are on display for all to see. The photos surrounded cars from Ayrton and Roland's careers, including the famous McLaren MP44, which Senna and then teammate Prost drove to victory 15 times out of 16 races. In the opposite paddock, a second exhibition showed off items from the Museum of Ayrton Senna and the various pieces of memorabilia they've collected over the years, ranging from clothes, helmets, overalls and racing equipment to a special Ducati 916 dedicated to the late hero. On the final day, amateur racers took to the circuit before the show everyone had been waiting for. Two of Senna's iconic cars took to the circuit. His 956 Porsche, which he drove at the 1000 km of Nürburgring in 1984, and his Lotus 97T from the 1985 F1 season, the car he drove to his maiden victory at the Portuguese Grand Prix.
only got the chance, whether take it now or never. See that you only have the ground. Don't you go away, don't you go but stay.
Hello. Well, even even if it's a sad moment to remember what's happened here 20 years ago, at the same time it's also a great moment to come back here to Imola. At my generation we had so many good time here, so many races, testing here. And I remember very well with Ayrton spending half of our racing year here around Imola in hotels, on the racetrack, on the pits. And it was fantastic. So we are here today again, and we are all very happy to be here and to give all the respect to our friend Ayrton, what we, I think you all agree with me, think is the best race driver of all time.
Kimi, when is Kimi?
Obviously, it's a very emotional memories from 20 years ago when this very difficult weekend for F1 and when there was a loss of Ayrton and obviously also other driver Ratzenberger on the same weekend, so it was a bad weekend for motorsport for F1, but it's nice to see all the people here and like Gerhard said, I think it's good to have a happy memories of him and both of the drivers and obviously have a good memories of them and unfortunate things happens, but I think it made a big change to Formula 1 and it gave a lot of good things for Formula 1. Thank you.
First of all, I remember him as best racing driver in all our generation, in all the generation I was driving. But he was a close friend of mine. We've been the same age. We had a lot of fun together. We raced a lot together. So, well, there's a lot of different ways to remember him. But in the end of the day, I remember him as the greatest race driver of all time.
It's very simple to remember Ayrton. Ayrton was the best and always will be the best for me. And I remember that was very impressive in the race and also outside the race.
The death of Ayrton Senna in one of our cars in 1994, I would say, was the most emotional and difficult event to deal with.
Well, you know, I was very lucky because I had a special relationship with him, because I met him when he first came to England in 1981. At the time I was working for a Brazilian magazine, Autosport Brazil, and they wanted pictures of Brazilian drivers racing in England. So it was my job to find the drivers, track them down and take pictures, and that's what I did at Thruxton. I looked at the program, looked for BR, and then I saw Ayrton Senna da Silva, so then I followed him. I never introduced myself because I was quite shy, and I just took lots of pictures of him. And then what happened is the following weekend he was racing in Brands Hatch, so I went to Brands Hatch, and when I walked into the paddock, he was very interested to understand why I was taking all those pictures of him. So I told him, because I was working for a Brazilian magazine, and then he said, "Are you a professional photographer?" You know, at that time I was in my second year, and I was 21 years old. And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, I need pictures as well, so I can send them back to the Brazilian newspapers and get publicity. Will you be my photographer?" And I said, "Yeah, as long as you pay me." So, and that day he won his first ever car race. And of course, then I carried on following him that year, and he went on to win many races and the championship. And then in 1982, of course, he raced in Formula 4 2000. And that year, I started doing his press service. So I wrote the press releases and sent them all out to all the Formula 1 team owners and all the magazines around the world, which I'd started working for. So, as he was winning, he was getting more and more press coverage. So that was a real help. And also, I was able to travel with him, especially the European Formula 4 2000 races. I was able to spend some time with him, and some of them were supporting Grand Prix in Holland and in Austria. And then he flew me to Denmark for the final. Well, not for the final, but for when he had a chance to clinch the championship. So, and we flew together, and we stayed in the same room, and we got to know each other a lot better. And then we did Formula 3 again in 1983, and of course a big battle with Martin Brundle, which he finally won the British Formula 3 championship, and then went on to Macau, and then finally to Formula 1. So by the time he got to Formula 1 was the time I got to Formula 1, and we knew each other, so it was a special relationship. Well, first of all, I haven't forgotten him. He was a good friend of mine, and a little bit like Ayrton, he came to Great Britain in 1986 to race in Formula Ford, and he was living in a little small village near Silverstone called Blakesley, and my office was in Towcester near Silverstone, so we got to know him, and he was local to us, so we did a lot of photo shoots for him. And that year he won the British Formula Ford Festival. And as his career progressed, he often asked us to do some special pictures for him. So that's how we got to know him. But the one thing about Roland, and I always explain to people that, I worked with Ayrton and I worked with Roland. It took Ayrton 3 years to get to Formula 1, but it took Roland 10. But, he never gave up. That's what was incredible about him, And he was such a great guy, always very happy and smiling, and he enjoyed life. And he did really well, even though, from racing in England, in Formula Ford and Formula 3 and Formula 3000. He then went to Japan, and he started earning money, which enabled him to buy a lot of nice road cars, Porsches and stuff. So I always used to love, hearing his stories of what car he'd bought and everything. And he was a great inspiration to me as a person. Just if you want something, you just never give up.
thank you all for being here. Since I got to Italy, I've seen all this passion from the Italians, and it's very special for me and my family to see all that. And even if it's a sad day, for us it's also a beautiful day because of the love that we are receiving from you all. Thank you very much.